It's been about 3 years, hasn't it? Have you reflected yet?
I couldn't understand what he meant by that. He continued.
If you're done reflecting, I'm willing to consider getting back together.
Getting back together?
Yes. And then hurry up and have my child.
What? I wondered what on earth he was talking about. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. Then, for some reason, Michael seemed to misunderstand and thought my silence meant I was overjoyed.
You really can't manage without me, can you? If you can promise not to mess up this time, I might consider remarrying you.
To his repeated condescending remarks, I finally responded. I'm already remarried. I am Olivia, a 33-year-old housewife. About 3 years ago, after divorcing my former husband, I remarried and am now walking a new path in life. Life with my previous husband was very difficult, but now I am living very happy and peaceful days. I met my former husband, Michael, at the company where I worked, and our romance began with his active approach. It all started when he frequently visited my workplace for sales calls. Arranged marriages were common around me, but my parents wished for me to have a love-based marriage and supported my relationship with him. With my parents' consent, we quickly got engaged and had our wedding 6 months after we started dating. Michael was a family-oriented man with a gentle personality, so our married life was going smoothly. After getting married, I became a full-time housewife at my husband's request. Therefore, I worked hard to support him by doing household chores. I believe I made quite an effort on my own. However, about 6 months after we got married, I noticed a significant change in my husband's attitude.
Hey, is dinner ready yet?
What? Oh, sorry. It'll be ready soon. I was taken aback by his sudden harsh tone. Until now, my husband had always spoken to me kindly. His tone changed so abruptly that I was at a loss for words, and he said irritably,
I'm hungry, so hurry up and prepare the meal.
Sorry, just a little longer, please. I hurriedly continued cooking, but about 5 minutes later, he sighed and headed to his room. I then heard the sound of the closet opening from his room.
Forget it, I'll eat out.
He came back to the living room wearing his coat. But, I just need to grill the meat, and it'll be ready.
It's too late, I can't wait any longer. Make sure it's ready sooner next time.
But he left for outside. Despite my rush, I had hurriedly changed the menu because he said he wanted to eat soon. Without even a moment to explain that to my husband, I stood alone in the kitchen. Did I do something to anger him? Why did his attitude change so suddenly? I reflected on our interactions up to now, but no matter how I thought about it, I couldn't find a reason. In the end, my husband didn't come home until the next morning. As soon as he returned, he took a shower and then shut himself in the bedroom. I was so sad, I didn't know what to do. Today, when my husband came home in the morning, it was actually our wedding anniversary. But there was no sign of him waking up. In the past, he would reserve a table at a fancy restaurant and take me there. I was hoping that he had planned something like that this year too, but there was no indication of it. He will probably sleep until late afternoon. As I sighed and started doing housework, the noise from the vacuum cleaner seemed to bother him, and he came to the living room, visibly irritated.
Hey, it's too loud. It's giving me a headache. Turn off the vacuum cleaner.
He yelled at me while glaring. I was so startled by his intensity that I turned off the vacuum cleaner. Oh, you're up.
I was woken up because of you. Are you trying to annoy me on purpose?
No, not at all. I'm just cleaning as usual.
Then stop it, I'm trying to sleep. Don't disturb my sleep.
I'm sorry. He stomped back to his room, making noise as he went. And so, that day, my husband ended up sleeping until late afternoon. Of course, there was nothing prepared for our wedding anniversary. He woke up in a bad mood and asked irritably,
Hey, what's for dinner today?
I had prepared beef stew just in case, but after I served the meal, he ate in silence and then immediately returned to his room. He seemed to have completely forgotten about our wedding anniversary. But I was too frightened by his sudden change in attitude to say anything. From then on, his demeanor became increasingly intimidating.
Hey! Are my shirts washed yet? Don't feed me fish. Prepare meat. Do it over.
His attitude was always terrible, and I was constantly scared. Seeing my reaction, he only got worse, creating a vicious cycle.
Hey, is there a problem?
No.
Then answer properly.
Yes. I'm sorry.
It should be I apologize.
He was angry with me about everything. It was so different from when we first got married or were dating that I was confused, but I still loved him. I believed that someday he would become kind again. However, my wish never came true. I worked hard on household chores hoping my husband would return to being the kind person he used to be. I properly responded to his sudden demands, but it seems that was counterproductive.
You know, you're like a robot. A boring one that just does what it's told.
One day, he said that dismissively and left. When he came back, he said,
I cheated.
Wait, what are you suddenly talking about?
It's because you don't satisfy me. Got any complaints?
That's really harsh. We're married. At my response, he showed his anger, his face turning red as he yelled.
Huh? Are you defying me?
It's not about defying you.
Then what is it? Don't you know how to respect your husband?
Saying that, he slammed the table. He's tall and muscular, much stronger than me. I was so frightened when he hit the table hard that I shrank back in fear. Then, suddenly, he spoke in a gentle tone.
I really don't want to do this. I want you to grow more.
He patted my head. I was paralyzed by the sudden kindness. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Right, make sure you do better next time.
I was completely brainwashed. From then on, whenever Michael was dissatisfied, he would take it out on me, and gently try to reason with me. It's the classic type of behavior, isn't it? I was completely dominated by Michael's words. I'm doing this for your sake. I blamed myself for everything, thinking it was all my fault, and I couldn't find a way out. But those days came to an abrupt end. One day, Michael suddenly came home with a young woman.
She's pregnant with my child, so from now on, I'll be living with her.
What? What do you mean? As I was in shock, the woman sighed.
Sigh, don't you get it? It means there's no place for you here anymore because I'm pregnant with his child. We're going to get remarried, and from now on, we'll live in this house.
But, that's... I couldn't comprehend what was happening so suddenly. I was in complete confusion. I'm the one legally married to Michael, so why does she think she's already married to him? I was frozen in place when Michael, with an air of confidence, pulled a piece of paper from his bag.
Here, write this. They're divorce papers.
The divorce papers he tossed aside fell to the floor.
I'm tired of you. Hurry up and write them and submit them.
Saying that, he went into the living room with the woman and sat on the sofa. They turned on the TV and sat close together, laughing. Hearing their laughter, I finally came to my senses. Why did I ever love such a man? The hope that he would return to the kind man he once was is just an illusion. Such a wish will never come true. I will return to my parents' home.
Yeah, get out of here fast.
My husband and his mistress mocked me. I picked up the divorce papers, packed only the essentials into a suitcase, and left the house. When I returned to my parents' house, they were shocked but wanted to know what had happened. I told them everything without hiding anything. My parents listened to the end and were outraged at my husband. Afterward, I contacted a lawyer who was an acquaintance of my father and demanded alimony from Michael and the mistress. Naturally, the two refused, but they had openly admitted to the affair. There was no escape for them. As a result, I demanded $28,000 from Michael and $20,000 from the woman, and they ended up having to pay the full amount at once. It seems they have incurred debts, but that is no concern of mine. I started living on my own again and found a job. I considered returning to office work like before, but ironically, the effort I put into housework to please my ex-husband had become my forte. Through my parents' connections, I began working as a housekeeper. I started with just a few requests at a company known to my father, but gradually, as word of mouth spread, I began to get busier every day. One of my clients was David. He is a wealthy man who travels the world, providing supplies and education to children everywhere. Because of this, he is only home a few times a month. Therefore, he hadn't been able to do much cleaning and entrusted me with the keys to his house to clean it. I initially declined, feeling it was too much responsibility, but the company president, who was an acquaintance of David and believed I was the right person for the job, eventually convinced me to take on the cleaning a few times a month. Eventually, David even asked me to clean while he was in the US. He spoke to me kindly, and our conversations were very lively, as if we were on the same wavelength. After about a year of such days, David said something unexpected to me.
Olivia, I like you. Would you consider dating me with the intention of getting married?
I was surprised by the sudden confession. He is a good-looking and very intellectual man, so I thought there must be more wonderful women out there for him. I felt I was not a match for him and initially refused. However, he didn't give up and kept asking me out on dates. Gradually, I began to think that not responding to his feelings, when he cared so much about me, might actually be rude. It wasn't that I didn't have feelings for him, I just held back because I thought I wasn't good enough for him. So, I gathered my courage and accepted a date. I still remember how happy he was when I accepted the date. As a result, we went on several dates, and after dating 3 or 4 times, he formally confessed his feelings, and we started a relationship. He quickly introduced me to his parents and made our relationship public with the intention of marriage. My in-laws are very kind people who warmly welcomed me without concern for my past. A year after we started dating, we got remarried, and 2 months later, I became pregnant with our first child. Our married life is very peaceful, and I mainly take care of the household chores. David is also good at housework, so we often cook together and enjoy tranquil times. With the birth of our child on the horizon, David decided to stay in the US. However, wishing to continue his work, he established a non-profit organization and continues to serve as its representative. while he set up the company and began activities to support children overseas through profits made in the US. He always says,
Olivia and our baby's happiness come first.
And he is always considerate towards my parents as well. I am filled with gratitude every day for this peaceful life, which is incomparable to the days I spent with my former husband, Michael. I hardly ever thought about Michael, but one day, a sudden phone call to my cell phone changed everything. While David was out, I couldn't resist the incessant ringing of the phone and answered it to hear.
Ah, Olivia? It's me.
I wondered if this could be a scam. I was determined not to be fooled. My child is only 1 year old, and there's no grown-up son. With that resolve in mind, I nervously asked, "Excuse me, but who is this?" To my surprise, the response I received was astonishing.
It's me. Michael. You haven't forgotten your former husband, have you?
I was horrified. What do you want?
Now, don't be so stiff. It's been about 3 years, hasn't it? Have you reflected yet?
I had no idea what he meant by that. When David came home, I signaled him with eye contact and put the phone on speaker.
If you're done reflecting, I'm willing to consider getting back together.
Getting back together?
Yes. And then hurry up and have my child.
What? I looked at David, wondering what this person was talking about. I thought I had completely cut ties with my ex-husband and didn't want anything to do with him. I never imagined that he would make such a proposal years after our divorce. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. It seemed Michael misunderstood my silence for joy.
You really can't manage without me, can you? If you promise not to mess up this time, I might consider remarrying you.
To his repeated condescending remarks, I responded, I'm already remarried.
What?
He must have been very surprised by the response, as he let out a ridiculous sound, and I couldn't help but laugh a little. So please don't contact me again. I unilaterally hung up the phone. Even though David had only heard part of the conversation, he seemed to understand everything and was ready to respond immediately. In fact, I had to call Michael about another matter, so it was actually convenient that he contacted me. David and I had been planning a sanction against Michael and his mistress. A few days later, the lawyer who had helped me before came to visit to discuss this matter. While talking with the lawyer and David, my cell phone rang again. Reluctantly, I answered the familiar number and heard Michael's voice.
You said something strange out of the blue yesterday, which caught me off guard, but that was a lie, right? Women like that kind of game, don't they? You're not really remarried, are you?
Michael said this in a mocking tone. Then David spoke up to the phone on speaker.
It's not a lie. I am her current husband.
Huh? Husband? Did you even prepare a male actor just to tell a lie?
No, I really did remarry.
Humph, I don't believe it.
You don't have to believe it. Whether you trust me or not doesn't matter to me.
What did you say? You become quite cheeky.
You haven't changed at all, have you? Always taking a high-handed attitude. We have a lawyer here. I can explain that I'm remarried, and there's something important to discuss.
Lawyer?
His voice faltered. Hearing the word lawyer must have made him realize the gravity of the situation.
Anyway, if you're really remarried, then divorce him and come back to me. And have my child.
What a selfish thing to say. That's impossible. I love my current husband, and besides, I have a restraining order against you.
What?
Oh, did you forget? I should have explained it when we separated. If you violate it, another alimony payment will be triggered. As I said this, his momentum gradually weakened. However, he tried to persuade me with a sweet tone this time.
Olivia, you would be happier with me. Are you satisfied with your current life?
Yes, of course. I have a child now, and my husband is very kind.
Hey! A child?
Michael was at a loss for words. Breaking the silence, David declared firmly.
I can make her happier than a self-centered person like you. I will never divorce her, and she will never return to you.
I agreed with David's statement and nodded strongly. Before Michael could say anything, we hung up the phone. Afterward, I made a claim through a lawyer for the unpaid alimony from the affair with Michael and his mistress. Now that I was married to David and had some peace of mind, I thought it was time to make the claim. As expected, Michael protested angrily. I decided to discuss it with him, along with David and the lawyer. Michael was furious, saying he couldn't afford to pay any alimony. He had spent too much money on his mistress and had nothing left. And when the money ran out, the mistress apparently dumped him easily. By the way, the story about the mistress being pregnant was a lie to break us up. After being dumped by the mistress, Michael seemed to be leading a dead-end life and reached his limit of patience, thinking of getting back together with me.
You would prefer me, wouldn't you? After all, for a housewife like you, who your husband is matters, doesn't it? You're poor and have nothing.
Michael continued to mock me as usual. To him, I revealed a certain fact. Indeed, I don't work, but I do invest in stocks, so I earn money through investments.
What? Investments? You don't have that kind of money.
Oh, that's right. I never told you about my family's home. It may look modest on the outside, but actually, we're quite wealthy. My great-grandfather was a large landowner. My grandfather inherited that, and now my father does. They've made various investments, so we have quite a bit of assets.
How much are you talking about?
$18 million.
$18 million? Wait a minute, that's got to be a lie, right?
No, it's about that much. My parents own all sorts of buildings and parking lots.
So, I had a chance to marry into wealth.
There's no such chance. My current husband and I respect and love each other as equal and independent beings. He runs his own business. He himself earns several $millions a year.
So, you're happier and more successful than me.
Michael hung his head in shock upon hearing the truth. It seems he was so shocked that he had no energy left to speak. For now, I informed him that the claim for alimony would continue and advised him never to involve himself with us again. Seeing Michael turn pale, I finally felt a sense of relief. Now, it's not just that he won't dare to mock me, but I won't even see his face anymore. If he shows up after all this, it will be a matter for immediate reporting. Afterward, it seems Michael spends his days alone, paying alimony in solitude. Meanwhile, David and I live happily together. We plan to continue respecting each other, working hard on parenting, and building a warm family.
How did you find this story? Please remember to subscribe to the channel.